Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new, you're welcome. If you're an old subscriber, welcome back. My name is DoliveB, and in this video I'll be teaching how to make this ruffle headband. This is actually one of my personal creations and I'm so glad to share with you. The materials needed are your plastic headband, or also called Alice band, your fabric. I used raw silk in my own case, a pair of scissors, glue gun and the candle, measuring tape, a small piece of soft foam. You can get this from a furniture making shop or where they sell bags and shoe making materials. Now the first step is to cut out the fabric required to make or to cover our headband. This is actually different from what I have taught earlier or what you might have seen in my other tutorials. So when I measure, what I have is about 2.5 inches width and the length 16 inches. That's the length of my headband. Now I'm going to be placing the fabric under the headband. This is another method of covering your headband. It is actually simple and doesn't require other material or accessories to cover the inner part. So just watch what I'm doing. I just place my fabric under it and I'm going to start gluing it like that on top. But please, before you start gluing, you can notch so that your fabric will relax well. I actually forgot doing this while I was working. So just notch before you cover. Okay, it will make it relax very well. So you go ahead and cover your headband like this. From under, just cover it like that towards the upper part. So you need to just take your time while doing it, and please don't forget to notch. If you notch, I showed you how to notch in my previous video. If you notch, it will relax very well and it will be easier for you. Okay, I'm going to trim off the excess we have right there on both sides. Can you see? I just trim it off like that and use my glue to put the edges, the two edges or the two ends together. I repeat the same on the other side. Now the next step is for us to cut out another piece of fabric. Cut another piece of fabric with the measurement 17 inches by the width 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to fold it in half and sew from one end to the other end. After which I'm going to use my safety pin to turn the right side out. As you can see, I've sewn it right now and I'll just use my safety pin to turn it inside out. I can just go ahead and use my fingers to turn it inside out, whichever way is okay. I can actually use my iron to smoothen it out. So I measured my piece of fabric after it is sewn, and what I have is 1.5 inches, and I'm going to be using this to cut out my foam. 1.5 inches width. This foam is called the half an inch foam. It's very soft. You can actually skip this part if you don't want to put foam, but I just like to put the foam because of the way it actually came out. I like the way I added the foam. So I cut that out using the same length of the fabric with the width 1.5 inches, and I'm going to find a way to push it into our piece of fabric. You can use your fingers to push it, or you can use safety pin to push it in. Can you see? Make sure the seam falls on the center and you arrange it. Use your palm to smoothen it out so that it doesn't look rumpled. So that's just what I was doing right here. I'm going to be fixing my padded piece of fabric on my headband using my glue. The part where we have the seam is going to be facing the headband. It's going to be facing the upper part of the headband. So I bring the two hands together like this, and I use my glue to fix them together. That is, one end of the piece of fabric is attached to one end of the Alice band. I'm just using my glue to seal the ends up, as you can see. So I'm going to be gluing this like that. I just glue it to this point. Just watch what I'm doing. I glue it up to this point and I stop right there. Now I come to the other end. I bring the piece of fabric to the other end, and I'm also going to glue from that end to somewhere on the headband, leaving the center of the headband. What I mean is, I'm not going to glue the center of the piece of fabric to the center of the headband. You will understand what I mean. I just glue it up to this point, as you can see. I glue it up to this point like that, and I'm just going to leave the center for now. I won't glue the two items together at the center for now. That's what I mean. So I trim off the excess fabric I have right there. Okay, I take off the excess foam like that. I just cut off the excess piece of thread or fabric I have right there, and I use my hot glue to seal the ends up. Okay, so you need to watch closely what I am doing right now. Okay, I just folded in the edge. Just watch, you get it. Fold in the edge like that, in like in form of a triangle. Okay, just to make that part slimmer. I repeat the same on the other end. Okay, so see where we have our opening, at the center of the headband. This is where we're going to be fixing our ruffles. All right, the next step is to cut out the piece of fabric which we are going to be using to form the ruffles, and the measurement is 32 inches length by 14 inches width. 32 inches by 14 inches width. Now I'm going to fold it in half. That's, we have the right side facing up, and I fold it in half on the 32 inches part, and I'm going to sew from one end to the other end. It is now sewn, as you can see, and I'm going to bring the right side of the fabric out this way. After which, I'll be putting the piece of fabric right into the, right through the center of the headband. We have the seam of the piece of fabric facing up, so I'm going to make it face down and push the fabric in right there. This is the reason why we have this part of the headband, the center of the headband, open. So I'll just carefully push the piece of fabric in and arrange. Yes, just push it like that in. So I push it in and make sure that it falls on the center of the fabric. Can you see? By the time you fold into two, you should have two halves. Now I'm going to fold, as I folded it like that. Now the seam is facing up. The seam of the piece of fabric is actually facing up right now, and I'm going to sew. So we have the right side up, as you can see. So I try to trim off, I'm just trying to trim off the excess seam allowance right there. I like doing this when making headwears. It makes your work relax very well. So I just trim that part off, and I'm going to flip the right side of the piece of fabric out like this. As I'm flipping it out, or after flipping it out, I drag the piece of fabric. Look at the seam. So I need to drag this piece of fabric so that the seam stays under the piece of fabric on the headband. I hope you understand. I pushed the seam into half. That's the opening we have right there. Fold, like do some pleats right there, adjust, and I'm going to use my needle and thread to tack it down to the headband. Invisible tacking. This should be done carefully and patiently to make sure that your thread does not become visible. So I'm just going to finish my tacking like that. I tie a knot and I move on to the next step. I have this piece of fabric cut out using the measurement 6 inches by 2.5 inches width. I fold it in half widthwise and I sew, and I'm going to use my safety pin to turn the right side out. And I use my glue to seal the ends like this. I'm going to be using this to wrap the two ends of the headband. You can actually make use of elastic, you can use Petersham ribbon, or you can use any ribbon of choice, or even trimmings to do this part. But in absence of all these accessories, I'm using the main piece of fabric to do this.